Hello, I'm Tom Wilkinson, and welcome to the Thinking in English podcast, a podcast for intermediate to advanced level English learners. Welcome to the first Thinking in English episode of 2023. Or is it really 2023? Let's discuss the history of calendars, time, and dates on today's episode, and practice your listening comprehension and vocabulary skills at the same time. You can find the full transcript for free over on the Thinking in English blog. Check out my YouTube channel and Instagram page, both called Thinking in English Podcast, and leave me a like, rating, or review wherever you are listening right now. As always, a written vocabulary list is available in the description of the podcast and on my blog, thinkinginenglish.blog. Take for granted. Take for granted. To believe something to be the truth without even thinking about it. For example, I guess we all took it for granted that water would always be freely available. Solar. Solar. Of or from the sun. As in, I want to build a solar power car. Lunar. Lunar. Of or relating to the moon. For example, the Lunar rover landed safely on the moon. Approximately. Approximately. Close to a particular number or time, although not exactly that number or time. As in, the job will take approximately 3 weeks and cost approximately £1,000. Breakthrough. Breakthrough. An important discovery or event that helps to improve a situation or provide an answer to a problem. For example, scientists are hoping for a breakthrough in the search for a cure for cancer. Drift. Drift. To move slowly, especially as a result of outside forces with no control over direction. For instance, no one noticed that the boat had begun to drift out to sea. Divisible. Divisible. Meaning that can be divided by another number. As in, a prime number is only divisible by 1 and itself. Official. Official. Agreed to or arranged by people in positions of authority. For example, the official opening of the store is next week. Happy New Year! I hope everyone listening had a great December, enjoyed the New Year celebrations, and is prepared to keep learning and studying in 2023. If you are a regular listener of Thinking in English, you will know that I love to question everything. I like to think critically, investigate issues, and explain everything. It is part of my character and personality. One thing most people take for granted is the year. It is 2023. Last year was 2022, and next year will be 2024. Simple, right? Well, not everywhere. Throughout history, we have used a variety of different calendars and systems for telling the time, tracking years, and describing the date. Even today, while most countries use the year 2023 for international dealings, there are other systems out there. In Japan, the year is also Reiwa 5. In the Taiwanese calendar, it is the year 112. In the Islamic Hijri calendar, it is the year 1444. And the year 1401 in the Persian calendar. It is also clear that time started way before all of these dates. The world is definitely older than 2023 years. So why is it the year 2023? Why do most countries use this calendar? And are there any alternative calendars currently used around the world? Time is an interesting concept, something we take for granted in our daily lives. We organize our lives in terms of years, months, days, hours, and even minutes. But keeping track of time is a complicated task. For most calendars, there are two important measurements: the length of a solar year and a lunar month. Solar refers to the sun. A solar year is how long it takes the Earth, our planet, to travel the whole way around the sun. Lunar refers to the moon. A lunar month is how long it takes the moon to cycle between its different phases as it travels around the Earth. Today, we know that a solar year is approximately 365.24 days, and that a lunar month is about 29.5 days. This means that within a year, there are around 12.36 lunar months. So while we know these precise measurements today, people making calendars in the past didn't. Our ancestors had to decide the best methods to combine their observations of seasons and solar years and lunar months to create a somewhat accurate calendar. The Babylonians, Chinese, and Egyptian calendars used 12 months containing either 29 or 30 days. This would keep their calendar in time with the lunar months, but would be about 11 days short of a full solar year. The Islamic calendar is an example of a calendar still in use that follows an exclusively lunar system. The issue with this, however, is that the year drifts. Every year, events and dates in the Islamic calendar get slightly earlier. The important Islamic festival of Ramadan, for example, started on April 2nd in last year, will take place on March 23rd this year, and will begin on March 11th in 2024. Over the years, these events drift earlier in the solar year. If you don't care about the seasons or the temperature, the weather, or the solar year, then an exclusively lunar calendar might be fine. Yet, one of the most basic functions of a calendar is to make sure things happen at the same time every year. Imagine you are a farmer trying to plant vegetables that grow best in warm weather. Having the same date every year to plant your vegetables would make your life a lot easier. The Babylonians, Chinese, and Egyptians tried to solve this difference between the lunar months and the solar year by occasionally adding extra months to keep the seasons balanced. One of the most famous examples of this approach was discovered by Meton, an ancient Greek living in Athens. He realized that every 19 years, the lunar months and solar years return to the same time. By combining 12 short years, containing 12 lunar months, and 7 long years, containing 13 lunar months, you can make a functioning calendar. Roman Julius Caesar was known for many things. He invaded Britain, built a bridge across the river Rhine, contributed to the end of the Roman Republic, became dictator for life, and his name Caesar became synonymous with emperor. Some modern equivalents are Kaiser and Tsar. Julius Caesar introduced his own calendar, the Julian calendar. The Julian calendar was designed with the help of Greek mathematicians and became the official calendar of the Roman Empire on the 1st of January 45 BC. It later became the official calendar in most Western countries for over 1,500 years, and is still used by parts of the Eastern Orthodox Church today. The Julian calendar solved one of the major problems with old systems. It is a 12-month calendar that doesn't need extra months. The big breakthrough was the decision that a month didn't need to be exactly in line with the moon. The months of the Julian calendar are not lunar months. If you don't need to keep the months in line with the phases of the moon, you can then choose the length of each month and choose the length of a year on the calendar. If you remember, the solar year is approximately 365.24 days, and the Julian calendar came very close to this, with an average of 365.25 days. They achieved this by taking a leap year, or adding an extra day once out of every 4 years. The Gregorian calendar. The Julian calendar was almost perfect. Almost, but not exactly. The calendar averaged 365.25 years, but a solar year is approximately 365.24219 years. This means that the Julian calendar is slightly, very slightly, longer than the solar year. And over time, this leads to a drift against the solar calendar. Every 128 years, the Julian calendar gains a day. Compared to lunar calendars and earlier versions, this drift probably seems insignificant. And for 1,600 years, the Julian calendar was used by almost everyone in Europe. However, some Christian leaders wanted a better calendar, one that did not drift at all. In October 1582, Pope Gregory XIII modified the Julian calendar and introduced a new version, now known as the Gregorian calendar. The change was very minor. The Julian calendar had a leap year every 4 years. But under the Gregorian calendar, this was changed so that years divisible by 100, like 1700, 1800 and 1900, were not leap years, unless they were also divisible by 400, like the year 2000. So this very small change, taking 3 leap years out of a 400-year cycle, shortened the length of an average year. In the Gregorian calendar, a year is 365.2425 days, which is incredibly close to the length of a solar year. Why did Pope Gregory want to change the calendar? As the Julian calendar was slightly inaccurate, it had caused the spring equinox, when the hours of dark and light are equal, to happen before the date it was supposed to do so, on March 21st. As Christian churches use the equinox to calculate the date of Easter every year, making sure the calendar was as accurate as possible was seen as very important. The new Gregorian calendar was first adopted by European Catholic countries and their colonies. Over the next centuries, most other European countries began to follow the new calendar. Greece was the last country to adopt the Gregorian calendar in Europe for civil purposes. And by the end of the 20th century, almost every country used the Gregorian calendar for civil reasons, while sometimes keeping alternative calendars for religious and cultural purposes. Now, I've spent a lot of time talking about the history of calendars, but I haven't yet mentioned the main inspiration for this episode. Why is it 2023? Why does most of the world follow this dating system? Well, it is the year 2023, as it is supposedly 2023 years since the birth of Jesus Christ. Our world has 8 billion people, the majority not Christian, so why do we all follow the Christian system for years? Christian scholars began studying and calculating the birth of Jesus long ago, as they considered it to be the beginning of time. Debates were common over the exact year and date of his birth, as it is not mentioned in the Bible. The Venerable Bede, an English monk who lived between the years 673 and 735, is often credited with popularizing this system. He decided that Jesus was born on the 25th of December in the year 1 BC. and that history should be counted forward from that date onwards. Bede was one of the most famous writers and historians in England, and he used his dating system in all of his work. Other Christian scholars began to use the system over the following centuries, and the Emperor Charlemagne of France was apparently educated by tutors who followed this system. Eventually, most of Europe followed this dating convention. As European countries began to spread out and colonize the world, they took their times and calendars with them. The more places using the Gregorian calendar, the more other countries were pushed to change and adopt it. Today, the Gregorian calendar is used everywhere, as is the year 2023, referring to the birth of Jesus Christ. But despite this, it is highly unlikely Jesus Christ was born 2023 years ago exactly. There is very little historical evidence for the exact time and date of his birth, and the year was chosen centuries after Jesus' death. It is also important to know that while many countries will use the Gregorian calendar officially for official purposes, they may also have their own calendars. In the Hebrew calendar, one of the official calendars of Israel, it is currently the year 5783. Why? Well, according to Jewish tradition, the calendar began when the world was created. The Hebrew calendar is also based on a metonic system, the system I mentioned earlier of long and short years over a 19-year period. The solar Hijri calendar, used in Iran and Afghanistan, puts the year at 1401. This calendar is based on observation, not on mathematical rules, meaning that it is more accurate to the solar year than the Gregorian calendar. Year 1 in this calendar is the Islamic prophet Muhammad's migration to Medina. Interestingly, this is the same start date as the Islamic calendar, but that calendar puts this year's date at 1443. This is because the Iranian calendar is based on the sun, it's solar, and the Islamic calendar on the moon, it's lunar. In the Japanese calendar, it is the year Reiwa 5. Reiwa refers to the current emperor, and this is the 5th year of his reign. Thailand used the Thai solar calendar, a version of the Gregorian calendar, but using years in the Buddhist era, which is 543 years ahead of the Gregorian calendar. So this year is 2566, and there are more dating systems around the world. Why is it 2023? Because European Christian countries decided that was the year, and then began to dominate the world. But in reality, it is not necessarily the year 2023 in every country. Many countries and people still use 2 different dating systems, one for professional or civic purposes, and the other for cultural and personal and religious events. So here is today's final thought. That was a brief history of calendars, time, and the year 2023. Many of us take for granted the changing of the year every December 31st. But in cultures around the world, the date and time can be and often is different. Does your country have its own calendar? What year is it in your country's traditional calendar? Let me and other listeners know by leaving a comment on the Thinking in English blog, a comment on Spotify, or send me a message on Instagram. I love to hear from every single person. Talking about the Thinking in English blog, make sure to go and have a look. I spent a lot of time and effort making it new, completely redesigned everything, so go and tell me what you think about it. Hopefully the transcripts are a little easier to read, and the website easier to use and find things on. So go and have a look. And if you're interested, join the Thinking in English Patreon. We have conversation clubs multiple times a week, bonus episodes, English classes for B1, B2 and C1 English learners, and a lot more. So go over and subscribe and practice and learn with lots of different people from around the world. Thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.